Hello, everybody. It's Friday. It's midday, which means one thing and one thing only, which is that I haven't done all my work yet this week. Um,
Has it been one of those weeks?
it's been chaotic,
Mm.
nicely chaotic. But yeah, as you know, like I was out this week. I was
Yeah.
in London, and of course, when when you're out, that means that you're not doing other stuff. So then you're like playing catch up. And also, for someone like myself, Christmas is manic anyway. Everybody else is like stopping working. So, like, you talk to clients and they're like, yeah, well, I'll stop in around about this time or whatever,
Yeah.
I was talking to our good friend Andrew Shepherd at,
Yes.
he said, oh, yeah, I think I'm finishing around about 16th, 17th. And I'm like, yeah, that's nice. But, for people that live in social media land,
Mm.
everything carries on. It's a bit like being Father Christmas
Yeah. So
at
what's
this time of year.
what is the finish date for you, Graham? Are you going to get finished before Christmas Eve? Is the question.
No,
Still be working on Christmas Eve, do you think?
still be working on Christmas Eve. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
It will slow down a little
Yeah.
bit in the last few days, but yeah, I will still be putting the finishing touches to certain things. And here's the thing as well. I'm going to be completely bluntly honest about this as well.
Yeah.
Even if I finished, I wouldn't be finished. Yeah, because I'm always thinking of the next thing. So
Yes, you are.
I just be on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just be on it. I've been busy discovering this week. I'll talk a little bit about new technologies. I've been busy sort of working on and playing with and really getting to grips with scorecards this week. Do you know what
Okay.
scorecards are?
Ish, but go on. Fill us in.
Okay, so we've talked about it a little bit on this show before when we've been talking about marketing. So in order to get people into a sales funnel online, you quite a lot of businesses will have landing pages, won't they? They will have
Yes.
just like flat landing pages here, there, and everywhere. And this is just a way of making those landing pages, if you like, a little bit more dynamic, right? Or the start of your funnel based page a little bit more dynamic, which is, think about it, Stephen. If I wanted to get your details,
Yes.
right, what would entice you to give me your details?
Something free.
Yes, something free. But what?
Good question.
It is a
Still
good
something
question.
free. I still want something. If I'm going to
Okay.
give that up, I want something in return.
Well, so you either physically want me to post you a product or something like that. I'm going to get
Please.
something tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of this, or
Show me
and
something. A reveal.
yes, yes, reveal or tell me something about myself that I don't know.
Okay.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's all about at the end of the day. That's our psychology in life. We want to know. Do I fit into that? Am I? Do you remember when? Right, this is going back years, right?
Okay.
But I don't know whether you remember. But my mum was always reading. I think it was called Women's Weekly.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
Having been a paper boy in the 80s, you remember all of those
You
publications.
remember that, right?
Yeah.
And in Women's Weekly, every single week, there was one of those survey things where it was like, are you, are you a good housewife? It was dreadfully sexist, right? But are you a good this? Are you a good that? Do you think you're a good lover? All of those sort of things, right? And they would sit there and they would like do the little quiz, and then at the end of it, it would tell them, right?
The big reveal.
The big reveal at the end. And you know what? That stuff works. Still works now.
But a lot of these things have worked for the last 20, 30, 40 years. It's just the format in which you give that information and it's populated and how it looks. It's it's still the same principle.
Yeah,
what they're trying to get to.
it's not changed at all. It's
Mm,
not changed at all. And do you know what? The reason it doesn't change is because human psychology doesn't change.
mm.
That's the fascinating thing. So for all of you out there who think, oh, I don't really understand marketing, don't really understand all of this, yeah, you do. If you understand people and the way that people tick, right, then you pretty much get it. You might not understand the modern mechanisms by which it's done, but you actually, when you're talking about it to perhaps someone that can help you with it, you do. If you understand people, then you've probably got the starting point of something
Yeah.
there as an idea. So, and a great tip for anybody out there is, if you are ever wondering, how do I market my product? How do I market my service? How do I, is just make a list of, when customers ask you questions, just make a note of them. Just make a note of,
Yeah.
what sort of things, when someone comes on the phone and starts asking you something, what is it? What are they asking?
And I bet you if you did that over a group of, say, 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 people, there actually wouldn't be there wouldn't be hundreds of questions. They'd probably be the same ones. You'd probably come down to a same core, I don't know, between 5 and 10 questions that
Yep.
would be pretty much appear across all of those people who'd be asking the questions. It's just it's getting that core group and that core information in your head and get it projected and get it across. That's what people want to know, the whole crux of what you can do and what you can offer.
Yep. Let's just go into that a little bit.
Mm.
Most common questions you get asked around the field of sort of ergonomics and the kind of products you sell. What are the most common things that you get asked?
The most frustrating question I always get asked is, how much does it cost? Because
Right.
that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest frustrations, is that people's, and then we've touched on this lots of times, people's first thing generally with ergonomics is not what can it do, and not how can it benefit me or my staff. What does it cost? That can be the most, I suppose that's probably when you're talking to the sort of the end users, so people who use product or buy product.
How do you answer that question?
Huh.
It's a great question to ask, isn't it?
It is. I tend to flip it away. I tend to sort of move away from that and actually tell them what it, well, it's, before I talk about what it costs, let me tell you what it can do, and then start talking about the product, because it's all about people. People see it. It's what are they comparing it against is the big problem. If you look at it, what people would spend on lots of different things, it's I tell you what's a great example. We've used this, or you've used this on this show before. When you talk about a chair, we don't do
Yep.
chairs, but I think this is a great example you've used, and I think Andrew Shepherd's used it as well. The cost of a chair in a car is thousands of pounds,
Yep.
and you sit in a car chair for a long period of time. People still, and I was up with I know we've had Oliver Jones from Back Care Solutions on before. I was with him last week, and we were doing some work with a group of assessors and talking about product and that sort of thing. And he was, he was using this. People will still try and buy a chair for someone to sit in 6, 7, 8 hours a day for 150 quid. But if you sat in the equivalent, if you put that equivalent chair and its functionality in a car, people would be up in arms because it would never work. So that's always one of the classic ones that sticks in my mind. People will try and do certain things cheap, but don't realize how much it actually costs to get that good quality product.
Exactly. Well, and we've mentioned this before,
Mm.
but I'm going to say it again because it's Christmas, and I'd like to give out presents at Christmas.
Okay.
So if you're watching and you're from the sector and you want some advice on sort of how to take people up a level when it comes to things like, well, any product really, but let's go with seating in particular, then just look at what the sleep products industry have done, right? Because what they have successfully done in general is they have moved it away from price.
Yeah.
They've moved it away from even features, advantages, and benefits, which is still where, to some extent, a lot of salespeople are today with chairs.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. right? We saw it. We had all of that fun, didn't we, during COVID, where we
Yeah.
did all of that reactive stuff, where
Yes.
we looked at some of the worst chairs. I have to say they were the worst chairs on the planet on various sales platforms, where every single part of the description said this is an ergonomic this, it was ergonomic that, because literally someone had stuck the word ergonomic in front of the product at
Yeah.
various points to say, you know, it's got an ergonomic knob on it, which
Yeah.
turns ergonomically in order to release the ergonomic mechanism, which then
Yeah.
allows you to ergonomic. Oh, it was just some of it
Tosh.
was absolute
Tosh.
tosh,
Yeah.
right? And the problem was it was just being sold on the, you know, the features of it, right?
Not how does it make you feel?
Yeah. And now, right, let's talk about very quickly one of the best new sleep adverts that's out there. Do you, as we were coming up to like the Olympic Games, did you remember that one with the people from the Olympic team where they were
Yes.
going through the showroom and it's like, shh, don't disturb, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And they had all of the famous people from the Olympic team just asleep on the bed. Get in there because, you know, they need to perform well
Yeah.
at the Olympics. You know, it's just, you know, and almost as though it was part of their kind of preparation for the Olympics was that they had to have top-notch sleep, which gave you the impression that actually if you get top-notch sleep, then you'll perform better, right? Because you want to see yourself in that kind of light. It's brilliant. Didn't say anything about the beds.
No.
Didn't tell you anything about them at all.
But you know, we've done a similar thing, and I can there's a sort of, you know, we don't need to get too much into presentations, but we've got a great part of us. I think it's on our website, and a presentation we've done is where you almost think of office workers, DSE workers, whatever you want to call them, but actually as athletes, and thinking about if you can introduce all these different bits and pieces, whether it's a habit or a physical product or a routine, actually, if you treat that person as an athlete and look about getting everything right for them, how if an athlete will perform better with better conditions, then by nature, an office worker, DSE worker, has to be exactly the same. If you give them better conditions to operate in, they'll perform better. It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Yep. Now, my other bit of advice on the old Costa-Rooney thing is hit the customer with cost first before they have a chance to.
Get it out the way.
Get it out the way, right? Actually take it to them, right? And explain. So where you were going with it, right? But explain how this saves them money, right? And is a cost saving and is a return on investment. And actually, if you can do figures, that's even better.
Yeah.
Before they get a chance to come in with how much does it cost?
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And in fact, a great example, about 18 months ago, I think I've mentioned this before, I went out with one of the salespeople from one of our main UK partners, and we went to a hospital trust. And you'd think with the hospital, hospital trusts, part of the public sector, obviously, finances can be quite tight. Exactly. So we were talking to them about what we needed and some of these things we would introduce, and giving them a ballpark as to what it would cost per user at each desk to introduce that. What was really interesting and again, sometimes you can prejudge it and you get it totally wrong. You're initially thinking, oh, they're not going to go for that. You know, maybe that's a little bit too much of a stretch. But their first comment that's really, we actually think that's a really worthwhile investment, because our biggest cost as a business or the NHS is staff sickness. If by investing in some good quality equipment, whatever it may be, if that helps reduce sickness, absenteeism, presenteeism that I think we touched on last week, that is worth its weight in gold, because that is our biggest cost, is people being sick and either having to pay other people to come in and do the role, as well as the paying the person who's off sick, Or the alternative is you create a backlog of work if no one else picks it up. So they said, actually, it's more important to us to get that person into work and avoid sickness. It outweighs any cost of investing in good quality product and equipment, as I say, whatever it would be it a chair, a desk, an accessory. And that sort of, you sort of see it in that environment, it hits home.
Yeah. This is where really good background research on a client or a sector can really help you before you actually approach it.
Yeah.
A great example in the last business I was in, we talked to somebody, not that would be at the coalface in terms of making a decision, but we talked to somebody else within a university first about the cost to them each year of when people going through a particular program dropped out at different years. Right? Because if you think about it, to put somebody through university, especially around anything like a medical degree or whatever, costs that university an awful lot of money. Yes, they might be paying student fee, but it costs the institution that an awful lot of money. So anything, what we then deemed from that was that anything that would help keep more people in, i.e. retention, would really be beneficial, and you could literally work out costs. Yeah. So by the time we went to talk to the right person about it, we could literally say, this will cost you nothing.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, because let me show you. We think that if you bought this product and put this in, your retention rate would go up by this.
Yes.
Right? If your retention rate goes up by this would cost you this, but actually the difference is this. You'd actually be quids in.
Yeah.
Well, I'd actually make money by buying something. Yeah. Brilliant.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. And that's the trick, folks. And I was taught that years and years ago. I think I've mentioned it before. I was taught that years and years ago by another guy called Stephen, who worked in the furniture industry, who sold storage wool, and he never sold storage wool. He sold the cost of moving to a business. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So there you go. You've had a lesson in sales there this morning. I hope that's helped some of you there.
That was really good. You were going to tell us a bit more about you. So you said you were out earlier this week, and I noticed you're going out a lot more. Where were you? What were you doing? What were the takeaways from what you were up to?
I'd like to say thank you at this point as well to Backer Elkhuizen, the sponsors of this show, who were also sponsors of that event. And I haven't got one with me to show you, but there was a lovely little brochure with a nice little advert of yours in there as well. I went with the document slopes, by the way, because I bet no one's actually ever seen that. No. But yeah, so I was in central London. I was at a showroom that belonged to Flock, and who very kindly donated the space to us for the day with the Care Connector network. And it was a gathering of different people from the care industry, suppliers and people who owned care homes or DOMs. And no, really, really interesting. We had people talking on all sorts from CQC, which is as soon as the guy came up and said, all right, I'm going to talk to you today about CQC. He was like a consultant who helped businesses with. Everyone went, whoa. It's like, I'm not from the CQC.
Oh, right.
If you're out there and you're watching this and you are from the CQC, look, good on you. But you'll know as much as everybody else.
You've had that reaction before.
It's a bit like working for Her Majesty's Revenue as well. You're not necessarily everyone's friend at first, and it's up to you to try and
win them over.
It was a bit like estate agents back in the day.
Yeah.
Obviously everyone loves an estate agent.
Timeshare salespeople. I mean,
Timeshare.
does such things still exist?
No, I think it was
No.
outlawed, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Banned or whatever. But it will exist in some shape or form.
Mm.
But yeah, no, it was brilliant, and I saw some great innovation. One of the things that was particularly interesting to see and behold and touch and feel was a product which a lot of people were interested in, and actually we may end up with one in the Flock showroom as well at some point.
Right.
So this is a massive, imagine a massive tablet the size of a big 32-inch TV,
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
right? And it's wooden encased, completely encased round, and it's on a height adjustable frame as well.
Okay.
Very, very sturdy, very, very well built, very heavy, etc. And the tablet itself can go up and down and tilt, and it can completely tilt so that it's flat as well.
Okay.
So that this can be used, and they were talking about it from the care sector point of view. This can be used in care homes where you can wheel it up to people, and they can do all sorts on it. They can do jigsaw puzzles on it. They can do, just by using the fingers. They can do if you put it flat, you could have a game of air hockey. It's lovely seeing some video stuff of old people playing air hockey.
Yeah.
That's just great.
Two things you'd never put in the same sentence usually.
No, I never thought
No.
that would be the case. But do you know what? If you've got an older relative at home this Christmas, I'll tell you what, when you've seen the joy it brings to an older person playing air hockey, take them out for a game of air hockey. They obviously absolutely love it. They'll probably thrash you as well.
Take them to the old bowling alley.
Exactly.
There you go.
Don't assume that all old people like old things. I think that's a really good point. But yeah, they could do all sorts of things. They could do learning on it, whatever. They could look at sort of video stuff and whatever on it as well. Really, really, really clever unit, and had a lot of thought gone into what sort of programs and applications would be useful on it. And the best thing about it is that it could be wheeled off, it could be updated via software, etc. But it was all safe as well. It was all in the way that was done. It's you couldn't tamper with it. There was nothing you could tamper on it.
Yeah.
As well. And even like with most tablets, you can pretty much break them.
Are you saying this can't be broken?
Yeah. In other words, you can't get back to like the operating system and and find your way and crash it all and all of that sort of thing. You can only get so far with it, and then someone else has to come in and sort of load up other stuff and whatever, which is really good. Which is really, really good. So that was great. Lovely bit of innovation there.
Is that something that's in circulation, as it were, or is it a new product they're looking to launch, or is it prevalent in care homes?
The model that we saw was the first time that anybody had seen that model. That was a prototype. They've been in existence with earlier prototypes before, but this particular model is. But it was interesting because, and this is where industries can cross-pollinate. We were then talking about that in terms of our sector, in terms of this might be really useful in situations like, because it could it had a battery life of 10 hours. 10 hours, this thing, right? Had a battery life of, and we were thinking you could literally have it wheel it out and put it in a reception area, for example, for like when you have an event on for people to sign in on.
Yeah.
Right. Had a camera as well, so it would actually be able to take like a video thing of that person, which would then maybe print out a badge with their name on, and so you could have a really robust sign-in board or whatever, capture information of people coming in, and it would look the business as well.
Nice.
So that was really good.
Now, going back to our early part of the conversation, you've told me all of that, but how much does it cost?
It was a price. I don't know. I never asked. You see, personally, I never ask how much things are.
No, no. I was just interested as to what we'd said before, as to how
Yeah,
good it was. Clearly, that wasn't the price, wasn't the question that was raised. People were more interested in what it could do and how it would make people
yeah.
feel.
I think when people look at price, it's because they either can't afford something in the first place,
Mm,
or they haven't really understood the cost
yeah.
that they're already having to bear before they ask the question.
Mm,
I like to think of it a little bit like once upon a time I used to DJ in a club called Iceni in Mayfair, and it was quite an exclusive club, quite costly
mm,
if you wanted to get in there. And down outside that club, there was a number of fine eateries in the area. And I remember as a young DJ, sort of looking outside, looking at one of the menus of these fine eateries, and saying to a friend, I said, "But there's no pricing." And he said, "Well, if you can't afford it, you can't go in."
yeah.
You know, and it's a little bit like that. I'm not
Mm,
saying that actually. Don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean to say that uh, what we're saying here is that some things are only for those that have got money,
mm,
whatever. But I think that sometimes you need to approach it first in terms of, do I really understand the
mm.
cost of the way that I am doing it at the moment?
Yeah.
And I
We've
and I
talked about price versus cost before, haven't we? What's the price of buying something, but what's the cost
of not buying
of
it.
not buying something? And that's where people go down the wrong route. They think of the cost. They're getting the wrong thing mixed up. You're thinking of the price. The price isn't the cost.
No, absolutely not. So yeah, and I think if you've got good solutions,
Mm,
good solutions sell themselves, and then someone has to find the money, right? And always with things like that as well, I'll say that price is negotiable, right? And it doesn't, what I mean by that is it's not about knocking money off, or money off, but there may be
mm,
another way of doing it,
yeah.
or affording it, or whatever else, you know. Um, and I think businesses are becoming more open to that. Look how many people now are using sort of credit-based systems or
Mm,
whatever, just to enable people to split payments on
yeah.
things and say, right, okay, you can't afford it all up front, but
3
maybe,
equal payments over 12 months.
which is fine.
Mm,
Someone will take the brunt of that. I mean, even back in the day when I was doing office furniture fit outs, it was getting more and more common for people to either to lease their furniture,
yeah.
or to or or to have like discount invoicing, or some form of money uh management that would enable them to do it. you know I never understood why more people didn't actually lease
No.
their office furniture, because in a way, you know it kind of made sense. You
Yeah.
knew that there was a finite life to it. Buy it over 5 years with an upgrade lease, so that 5 years down the line you get another load of new furniture. You'd never do it with IT now,
No.
surely. Does anyone?
I don't know.
I don't know. Do people
I mean, do you
buy
remember we used to
IT?
have rumbelows and radio rentals, didn't you, and all that sort of
Oh
stuff on
my
a commercial
goodness.
basis where people used to do that, didn't they? But you wouldn't. That doesn't exist anymore, does it? I guess.
Well, I think the likes of Klarna and sort of
Yeah.
just the technology that's even allowed like maybe a smaller trading company now just to go, we can actually split those payments and collect that in installments and whatever, has made it easier for people to exist beyond those. So if anyone's got a Stripe account, you can work out, or other payment systems do exist, but you can find useful ways of splitting the thing up. So yeah, no, it's interesting, but yeah, I'd always prefer to say, is it the right thing? Is it what we need? And if it's what we need, make the decision, yes, that's what we want, and then have the conversation about how are we going to get it.
Agreed.
Yeah. Price versus cost. Here we are. Great way to think about it. Thank you, Linda.
That's the name of today's show: price versus cost.
It is price versus cost. We're almost like money management today.
Yeah, we've gone down a completely different route that we thought we'd go at the
sales straight. Well, to be fair, we've both been in sales. We've both been in in sectors where this has come up a lot. I think it's quite an interesting part of it, but it does all feed back into ergonomics. I'm going to segue it. It does all feed back into, because actually, and this is something that people don't consider when people think about ergonomics. They probably think about, especially if you think about sort of ergonomic sort of features of a product, you'll think about adjustability. That would be a word. You might think about sizing. That might be a word, etc. But I would say that things like aesthetics is an ergonomic principle. How it looks is an ergonomic principle, because it actually, if it doesn't look very nice, you ain't going to use it.
No.
And I'll come on to some new products that you've just launched in a minute, because that's a nice little segue. So, but I think cost is an ergonomic principle as well. How you are going to afford that is a principle. It has an impact upon how you think or feel about that as an adjustment. Yeah. I mean, you must have seen that when you've been out to talk to people before now. There have been, over the years, and we won't name any of them, but there have been some products that some people have looked at, or you've had shown to you time and time again, where people have gone, it ain't worth that.
Yeah.
It's just that. Just I'm not going to use that. Look at it. It looks like it's been made, by chimpanzees, and they charge an earth for it, and that actually was a very big problem early on for ergonomic or manufacture of so-called ergonomic products, which was a lot of them were really concerned with the functionality of it, but they looked awful.
Yeah. Like you say, you've got to pack the functionality in, but it's got to look good. It's got to look interesting, and it's got to look that somebody wants to use that and make that part of their working experience.
Yeah. They, a lot of the time, very early on, people didn't want to use good adjustable stuff because it made them stand out from everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the industry has really tried to move on that, so that there's a higher aspect of design in there now. So actually these become desirable products that people want to use or want to have, and so I've got one of those.
Yeah.
That is an ergonomic principle. Now, talking of that, I noticed even just this week a new mouse.
Yeah, and actually it ties in really nicely with what you've just said there. So we've got we've upgraded a couple of our mice in our range, but actually it's very much from an aesthetics and branding perspective. So the product itself, the functionality is staying the same, but it's just incorporating those different colors, that tie in with what we have as a brand and making it feel part of the family. And actually, I've had a number of people already in response to us doing that going, do you know what? I really like that product. And I'm thinking, we had it before. It just didn't look, but it's really interesting. It by changing the aesthetics of it and the colors and the packaging,
Yep.
it draws in a new audience who, so maybe they makes you think, actually, what we did before was good, like you said before, features and benefits, but the aesthetic bit wasn't there and didn't attract people to it. The attraction there comes from the branding and how it looked, the branding colors and how it looks, and it draws people in. And as you say, probably more likely to get people using it because they've bought into it already because of how it looks and how they think it will make them feel.
See,
Clever.
it is an important principle, and I remember back in the day when I used to sell all of this stuff, the amount of times that people got quite upset where a company was like doing a chair parade, right? And rather than really looking at whether someone would wheel like 3 or 4 chairs into a business, or there would be 4 or 5 companies all wheeling their chair into a business for evaluation, and the one that got picked wasn't the one that was necessarily the best chair in terms of its functionality or what it could do or whatever. They picked the one that looked the nicest, and that was the analysis that came back as well. Nobody liked the look of that one.
Yeah, but you're going to sit on it. You're not going to sit there and look at it all day.
Yeah, but I think the industry at that point suddenly started to really take note and think, well, hang on a minute. If we can build the best thing in the world in terms of movement or support or what it does, but if nobody likes the look of it,
it ain't going to go anywhere.
It ain't going to go anywhere because everyone's going to look at it and go, I don't like that one. Even the color choice of what color got taken in was important.
Yeah.
If the only sample that you had, this is the God's honest truth. This one, here we are. What color do you think was the worst color chair to have as a sample chair to take into a business?
Black. No. Go on then.
Red.
Because
nobody liked a red chair. It just
because of what the color red stands for. It's a bit more aggressive, anger.
It's
that
kind of
thing, isn't it?
It's not very corporate.
No.
It looks, I'm going to say in general, especially a sort of more pillar box red, perhaps looks a little bit cheaper.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. It just didn't look as classy.
Yeah. And I said black because my assumption would be is everyone would do that, and therefore you couldn't. That was the worst thing to make your chair stand out. And I actually was going to think it would be quite a bright color, would be not maybe red, would be the best one because it stands out. But if everyone took in that black color, that's my thought process around why I thought the black would be the worst one to do because it looked like all the others.
Yeah. You could, if as a bold move, if you could, I mean, what I would always try and do is I would try and I'd either do it in black and probably black leather.
Yeah.
Because it would feel better. Or if I could, I'd try and get one in their company color.
Yes.
Right.
Tied into the branding.
So it's tied into the branding. And very few people actually have a bright red as their branding color. Very few. I mean, if you were selling to the post office, maybe.
I was going to say the post office, maybe.
To Father Christmas, he'd probably go for it.
He'd be all over it.
But in general, it might be interesting. Maybe at this time of year, red would go down a bit more. But in general, red didn't go. A lot of blue chairs went in as well. Kind of that was a very common corporate color. But the other thing that might swing it from time to time is if you could take it in a designer fabric, which just showed a little bit more class or
Yeah.
whatever. I remember when the Paul Smith
Yeah.
fabrics came out,
Yeah.
which had like those kind of Paul Smith
Stripes.
stripe designs and whatever, and a lot of people, especially around sort of more soft furnishing stuff,
Yeah.
would go with a sort of a Paul Smith type,
Paul Smith
and it was
fabric.
like, oh, that looks cool. Yeah, you know, you needed to
Yeah.
funk it up a little bit.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So yeah, I'd say yeah, red for an office chair didn't really work. If you were taking a soft chair in, don't take it in a sort of like pastel green or pink.
No.
No, you're going to put people off. Simple as that. So before we go, and we'll be back next week with a massive show.
We will. Massive. We had no guests this week. We got a plethora of guests next week for our Christmas special.
Yeah. I wonder whether they'll be wearing Christmas jumpers. I doubt it. But
well,
you
never know.
We could put out the note.
We'll let them know. Give them the option.
We might even do mince pies. I don't know how we'll post them, but perhaps they could just bring their own.
Yeah.
But we will be back with some very special guests next week. But yeah, just before we leave today, anything for you, just asking you, anything looking back on 2024, because I did say that this is we would talk about this. Looking back on 2024 and then looking ahead for 2025, any things that you feel have been particularly different in the world of work in 2024?
I don't know. I've just found that more of a solidification of the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the office. I know we've touched on it thousands of times and loads of people have, but I just find that seems to have become a lot more ingrained. Previously, people were doing it. It just seems to be a bit more of a hard and fast rule now, is that I bookend the week at home, but the middle of the week. So I think it just feels like that's become a bit more concrete in people's plans, where previously they were doing it. This year has felt as if that's what's happening going forward, and that's where we're sticking to, and that's how we're working. That's the thing I've just sort of felt in my experiences of seeing people, being around people, meeting with people. It just feels a lot more set in stone, that working pattern.
Okay, that's interesting. I've seen, I think one of the things that's seen a massive increase in 2024 is the whole neurodiversity piece on the table in terms of trying to bring that into sort of workplace culture, understanding, etc. I'd say that the emphasis, I'm not going to say that the emphasis has moved off of mental health.
No.
But I'd say that the emphasis has certainly moved towards neurodiversity rather than mental health in 2024.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think just from, even if you do two sort of barometers, what do you see on LinkedIn? And actually, what have we seen on the type of people we've been talking to on this show? The themes have just sort of slightly moved to the neurodiverse from the mental health, haven't they?
Yeah,
just two very simple barometers.
Yeah, and I think part of the reason for that is partly because over the COVID period there was such a big push on the mental health side of things that I think a lot of companies have at least done something there.
Yeah,
but I think they're still some way behind maybe on the neurodiversity piece, and that's why now that's, you know, sort of moved up the agenda a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's quite interesting. What about 2025 then? Just to finish, what any kind of,
the bit I was going to say is what you've just touched on. I think that neurodiverse thing is just going to carry on and carry on. I think that's just going to gain acceleration. I think it started gaining good momentum this year, and I think that will just become at the forefront a lot around what we're seeing around the workplaces. I mean, especially around assessments as well that people are doing. It's just becoming a far bigger factor and consideration around workplace assessments is the neurodiverse angle and impact.
I think one of the big things I'm going to stick my neck out. I think one of the big things that we may see in 2025, as especially in the UK, as the new government potentially manages to get some of its legislation through in terms of the workforce, etc., is companies needing to make more redundancies. And I also think with that, though, is companies may, or we may see an increase in people leaving companies to become individual consultants. And I think it might be that we might actually see more schemes by where companies help employees become individual consultants. I think we might see more of that. I think we actually might see more companies go, do you know what, we still want to employ these people, but we can't actually afford to employ these people. But now that technology has moved on a lot, we can potentially set these people up and actually help them to get more contracts with other people as well. And we can potentially job share with people more. So I think we'll continue to see more shift in the way that we work.
We'll replay this episode in 12 months' time and see
in 12 months' time. I may have to edit this episode drastically so that I don't sound like such an idiot.
Or just delete it from the archives. It never took place.
And I have not a Scooby-Doo's where we will be in terms of things like the high street or whatever. But I think we'll continue to see that evolve at a drastic pace again. Well, one of the things that I do think we will see is I think we will see more integrated shops.
Yeah, you've mentioned that a few times.
We are seeing it all the time anyway. I noticed very quickly, I noticed on the high street the other day as I walked through Taunton High Street, Toys R Us is now part of WH Smith's. Did you see that?
No, I didn't know that.
They've obviously brought the old brand and integrated that in, etc. And as you will also notice, folks, if you've been to a Tesco's lately, that entertainer toys, it's entertainer toys at Tesco's, etc. I think we'll see more of that because
within stores.
I don't think people can afford the space. I don't think we, with everything that's happening online, I don't think people can afford to necessarily have a shop anymore that everywhere. So I think stores are going to become, there are going to be some places where you will get flagship stores, but I think you'll see retailers consolidate, reduce down their retail, their real estate, and actually see if they can get stores in stores in order to share the burden of the costs of floor space, and that partly goes back to the extra cost that it's going to cost to pay everyone to work as well. So there you go. I'm waiting for my local cinema to introduce a combined pub stroke gastro bar area.
Well, some of them have, haven't they?
Which I've seen some places already. Yeah. Like you can literally go for the day and just, watch a film, eat, drink, and play ice hockey. It's marvelous.
Against an old person.
Get an old person. That's been a fascinating month. Yes. Thank you very much, Stephen, for looking through that. Watch out next week. We're not going to tell you who the special guests are, in case they don't turn up.
Yeah.
They will, but look out for next week. Do come along, and thank you for watching all year as well, and thank you for making this program a continued success. We hope you enjoy it. If you do learn anything from any of the episodes, do let us know. We always love your feedback. Until next week, bye for now.